As the myths would have it, the demigod Hercules and his men set sail on the Mediterranean, aboard 9 ships in search for the fabled Golden Fleece. The 9th vessel among them is said to have fallen from its course at the will of a powerful storm. The ship was found wrecked on the eastern coast of the Iberian Peninsula, and Hercules and his surviving crew members were so enthralled by the sheer beauty of the coastal landscape upon which the ship had wrecked that it was decided to establish a new city with the aid of Hermes, god of thieves in the trade. The city is said to have obtained its name by the fate of that 9th ship, the Barcelona. Historical accounts, however, trace Barcelona's deepest roots to the small coastal village of Barcino, officially established by Augustus around the 1st century BCE. A small colony built for retired Roman legionaries, Barcino grew into what was considered the largest Roman coastal settlement outside the city of Rome itself. The settlement's elevated location near a natural port just off the Balearic Sea made it ideal for managing Western trade by both land and sea. Similarly, Barcino's location on the fertile Iberian Peninsula made it the perfect center for nurturing what is now likely the single largest agricultural market in Western Europe. As with most colonies established by the Roman Empire, the city was designed from scratch with Roman centuriation and regular gridding, with an emphasis on the connection between rural farming communities and the walled city center itself. Near the middle of the city stands a quaint cobbled plaza known as the Plaza del Rey. It is widely believed by locals that this was the very location that King Fernando II and Isabella greeted a gentleman by the name of Christopher Columbus after his long voyage to the New World. If you take a trip to Barcelona and descend several feet below the cobbled stonework of this town square today, what awaits is remarkable. A large section of the Roman village of Barcino can still be seen today, and as most of it remains intact, one can easily note the similarities and ways of living between those of Barcino and those of the ancient city of Rome. Archaeologists have exposed numerous floor mosaics, ancient frescoes, a wine pressing facility, and even a Roman felonica, where citizens would line up to have their clothes dyed and washed. Fun fact, did you know that the Romans used human and animal urine to aid in the process of bleaching and cleaning clothes? Some Roman felonicas even had adjacent restrooms on the street corner, where urine was collected and piped directly into the laundry basin. Anyway, the Punic Wars against Carthage led the Romans to begin building walls around Barcino and paving the Forum to create a major provincial capital. Barcino likely served as the central base for operations in Roman imperialization on the Iberian Peninsula. During its Roman height around the 1st century AD, the city is said to have had a population many times greater than its numbers today. And as archaeologists have unmasked, they too lived with many of the conveniences and luxuries enjoyed by citizens of the city of Rome. Among the ruins beneath the Plaza del Rey lie evidence of hot and cold bathhouses, a vast network of long canals and aqueducts, and a central forum. These ruins beneath the Plaza del Rey are widely thought to be among the most expansive subterranean Roman ruins in the world. Near the end of the 3rd century AD, the Roman Empire really began to grow weak in the knees. A number of factors, the likes of which include economic instability, political corruption, and an unmanageable expansion, to name a few, all played a decisive role in the fall of the Roman Empire. Most notable in our case is the impending invasion by a number of Eastern Germanic tribes, including the Franks, the Vandals, and the Arian Visigoths, across the Pyrenees Mountains and eventually into the Roman town of Barcino itself. The previously established town of Barcino eventually developed into a principal economic center for the Christian Visigoths in the west, and imperial military and cultural influence in the area slowly faded out in concession to such expanding tribes. Publicly funded martyrs' basilicas began construction, and we see the bishop begin to play major roles in Barcelonan civic duties. The Forum eventually loses its purpose, and the early temple to Augustus was eventually dismantled, and much of its building material was reused as spolia in nearby palaces and religious structures. The dissolving ancient Roman town continued to develop into the major commercial city we know of today as Barcelona. In and around the 10th century, another count by the name of Barel II grew in influence and strengthened the county's political power. We begin to see an increasingly distant and independent relationship between the count and his king. Later in the same century, a new count by the name of Miro brings irrigation from the Bezos River to the walls of the city by the construction of the Rec Comtal. This artificial canal served, of course, as a means of bringing fresh water to the city, but it also was lined with water mills used to grind grain into flour. As clean water floods the city, religion begins to flood the rural suburbs. We begin to see the construction of monasteries and churches in areas distant from the city walls, such as Saint Pierre de les Puels and Santa Maria del Pi. Along with the development of Christianity, Barcelona's sole Jewish community, the Aljama, also began to establish their own respective institutions across town. During these critical times of city-wide development, we see the expansion of walls containing the city, as well as the construction of the city's very first of many ports built to increase trading efficiency. In 1298, the Barcelona Cathedral, also known as the Cathedral of the Holy Cross of St. Eulalia, had begun construction by decree of James II of Aragon and Bishop Bernat Peligre. The building's formal name is dedicated in honor of the patron saint of Barcelona, Eulalia, who is said to have been martyred at the age of 13 during Barcelona's imperial era. The construction of the building itself, however, stands as a pinnacle in the western spread of Christianity and a timeless icon in Gothic architecture. The year 1469 marks another pivotal point in Barcelona's history. This year marks the year in which the king and queen we all know and love are married, Fernando II of Aragon and Isabella of Castilian. As with many marriages among royalty, political and military strength can be gained. After the marriage, we also see the continued exponential growth of Christianity for the city, particularly Catholicism in the West and in the far West. As you know, these two sent a certain somebody on a field trip just over the horizon. But that's a story for a different day. During the mid-1600s, we see a major upheaval in the history of Barcelona and all of Spain. With a sharp decline in Spain's economy due to the Ottoman blockage of eastern trading routes, the government and its people really start to struggle. A massive revolt dubbed the Reapers' War broke out in response to the demands of the Castilian King Felipe IV. The layman of Barcelona and all of Catalonia was in essence forced to furnish Spanish troops positioned in Catalonia during the 30-Year War with housing and food. In 1641, the Castilian forces were defeated by Catalans in the Battle of Montjuic, and the Catalans accepted Louis X of France as the standing Count of Barcelona and therefore ruler of Catalonia. Eventually, France was pushed back onto their side of the Pyrenees Mountains, and things were finally settled in the signing of the Treaty of Pyrenees. France agreed to relinquish most of the county of Catalonia back to Spain. Although Catalonia fell back into the hands of the Spanish monarchy, the Reapers' Rebellion nonetheless was not fought in vain. Catalonia presumably had earned a certain degree of respect from its authority, for it had gained the recognition of many additional rights and privileges against its rulers, the likes of which the Catalans had never seen before under any sovereign. Today, Catalonia's current political situation seems to reflect that of its struggles in the Middle Ages. Just over 2 weeks ago, on October the 27th, the Catalan central government voted to declare independence from its mother country of Spain, to much worldwide political controversy. Bubbling up to the international headlines are recent rashes of public outcry, as key Catalan cabinet ministers are charged and jailed with rebellion and sedition. Only time will tell how Spain and the world will react to such a major political turn of events right smack dab in the middle of modern Europe. To this day, even as it did during the 17th century around the 30 Years' War, Catalonia still seems to be struggling to find its place in the modern world. Are the recent churnings of the European political waters simply echoes to its not-so-recent past? Or is it in fact another true history in the making?